Thank you, everyone, for coming and then joining us for this session. Today, we're going to talk about building AI applications with the help of Oracle AI Database at Azure, along with the MCP servers that we built from both Oracle and Microsoft. And all of these are happening with the help of Microsoft GitHub Copilot. So when you talk about the developer workflow, there's so many different developers that we have to go and then take into consideration. You have the traditional app developers who build their applications, and they have a set of challenges that they face today in terms of being able to accelerate their application development. You also have the ML engineering developers who look at building ML applications, and we also have data engineering developers, and you even have this new trend of developers called the forward deployment engineers. So for all these developers, one of the key factors when they do the development is they look at, hey, how do I access my data? I want to make sure that my data resides where it is today. In this case, we're going to talk about Oracle AI Database at Azure, which is residing in the Azure data centers as a native database application offering. It's accessible through the Azure Marketplace, so you can go and then work with this database as if it's a native database in Azure. Now, there's so many challenges that they face. Few of these are listed here. One of the fundamental challenges when it comes to accessing databases, setting up the connectivities. It requires a lot of manual wiring and API access and even learning documentation. And of course, you need to also do a lot of manual schema discovery. So today, you got to go and then take steps before you can have this database available and then set up for you to go and then use it in your applications. Of course, the data gets siloed between Oracle and Microsoft, so there are like different disparate systems where the data has to come together. And finally, you want to create data that can be used for running their validations and then templatizing. So the app scaffolding is a big challenge for customers and developers in particular. So how are we overcoming this? Both Oracle and Microsoft has been investing in AI technologies, and today we're going to talk about like 3 specific examples or 3 different technologies that are going to be focusing on 2 demos we're going to show up. So we have these Oracle MCP servers that's available today. You can go ahead and check it out in the OCI portal, and we also have a blog that's being released today where this is available not just through OCI, but also available in the Microsoft AI catalog. So this is available for you, and then you can get started today. And you also have the Fabric MCP server that can provide you a way to go and connect with Microsoft Fabric. And all these can be stitched together in a very coherent way using the Microsoft GitHub Copilot. So I mentioned there are 2 demo examples we're going to show. Both of them are, you can think of as like chapter 1 and chapter 2 because they're going to build on one on top of each other. So the first example, this is a fraud detection system. Basically, the idea here is, hey, if I go and then build a customer and account database using synthetic data, now I'm going to use that and then transport this to Fabric, all this data, which is within Azure. So we get this data to Fabric, make sure that there's no performance issues or there is no security issues. So once you do that, then you can give it to Fabric and then see, hey, what Fabric can do with this data, and then be able to develop predictive analytics and then run all your other forecasting type of models on it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the first demo here. So the way we set this up is, I'm just showing like a couple screens here. So there is a database that's been set up through Microsoft Azure Marketplace where you go and create an Oracle AI database, which is running an ADBS, which is Autonomous AI Database in Azure. So this is a fully automated database solution that's available. So we just set this up first, initially provision, without creating data in that. And then the second step is you go and then create a new empty workspace in Fabric. So once you have this pre-set up, the next thing you go is go into Microsoft Visual Studio. So with this, I just want to go first give a quick credit for my colleague Daniel from Sweden. He set this up for me right? Like he created the initial setup for me. One of the personal experiences, when I took this project and then tried to download it into my Visual Studio environment, the application was not working. So I had to go and then use Microsoft Copilot to go and then debug for me, do the troubleshooting, and then make it fix. So this happened through a few minutes where all these things are solvable through the the power of AI itself. So which is like a great personal experience for me. So how did I set up these MCP servers? They're all available as extensions within Microsoft Visual Studio. So now you can see that I'm running like a few commands here, and I'm going to show this here. So you can see that the first thing I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I can connect to this Oracle MCP server and the Fabric MCP server. So it's just going and then verifying, hey, whether the connectivity is going through. So in this case, it just goes and then checks the schema and then confirms that the connectivity happens. The next step I'm going to take here, I'm going to pause just for a quick second, is basically to show you that, hey, it is creating two tables in the Oracle database that I mentioned I created in the Azure Marketplace. It's going and then creating this synthetic data in the new database I created, which has two 100 rows each. So why this is important, right? Because now, if I want to go and then do it me as a developer, it takes time for me to go and then create this data and then make sure that this is an accurate data and that it is a performant data. So all these things will be done by the GitHub Copilot. So first thing is it just goes and then creates these tables here. And by the way, it takes like days for me as going back to my developer days. And I'm pretty sure that it is a real problem where, hey, you have to go and then put a lot of efforts to go and then create this accurate synthetic data. But here with Copilot, I'm able to do that within minutes. So once it goes and then creates the two tables, I'm just making sure that it checks that, hey, these names are all existing, and then just runs a bunch of validation to make sure that it is able to create all this data. So it's going through this creation process. And it first runs the Oracle MCP server, which is set up with this application. And once it just goes and then evaluates this, that it is able to run. So underneath, it is running the SQL CL, which is the Oracle Database utility where you could run your SQL. So the MCP server is able to go and then translate the natural language commands to a SQL query, and that's how it gets the data. So now it's just going and then pulling this data, it again making sure that, hey, it can go and then count the number of rows. It just wants to sample. So we talked about creating the data. Now it's more about, hey, can I query the data? Can I make sure that, hey, the data is real, and I can go and then see the rows that's been created. So I just trying to, this is another step in validation we typically do as developers, that, hey, we want to validate the data that we just imported into the database. So it just goes and then varies, and then it gives you some sample data, and then make sure that, hey, this is all looking good. So we just go and then check. And then once you do that, you also want to check the table statistics. So we have this built-in tool called Optimizer. So there is a statistics optimizer that it runs, which is available as part of the Oracle database, just to make sure that, hey, the SQL querying doesn't have any performance issues. It just wants to make sure that if there is performance issues, it can automatically go and then do the tuning. So it just goes and then checks, and then also make sure that, hey, the indices are working properly. So these are all some of the checks that we as database developers have to do it manually. This is all done automated by the GitHub Copilot. So now it's again running SQL CL on the background. It just goes and checks the indices and then constraints, and it made sure that it's all validated through the process. So now it's all done. So the next step is, this is the important step where we are kind of transitioning into the chapter 2. We will see more in the demo 2, where we are exporting this data right from the Oracle database to Fabric. Again, just to make a couple points clear, so this is, again, which is all within Azure. So we want to make sure that this is all secure, and you have the IAM control and the ability to make sure that the data doesn't go anywhere out of Azure. So this is just uploading the data. In this case, it's uploading as a CSV file, but today we have an enterprise way of transporting or replicating data using Oracle Golden Gate connector. So here we are just trying to get this data out to Microsoft Fabric. So once this data goes through, right, like it just goes and then checks, hey, it ran this one-lake path structure. So it just makes sure that the data went into the Fabric one lake. So once this is done, we are just verifying that, hey, the data does exist. So after the data is transported, we just want to make sure go to Fabric. So this is where the Fabric MCP server is being used to go and verify, hey, did this data land in the Fabric one lake? So it just goes and then again checks. All these things are happening through the MCP server connectivity. So once this is done, the final step as part of this demo is to show, hey, you have the data in Fabric. Can you go and then create in a Fabric notebook with the YAML files and then Spark Delta files being created? So this is where you can take this to the next step of being able to not just run your queries to get the data, but also be able to use it for your analytics workloads. So with this, I would like to pass it to Raji to go and then walk through this second demo, which will show you what you could do with the data, the power of data that you have in Fabric.
Thanks, Partha. I'm Laxmi Yellajosyula. Hi, everyone. I'm part of Oracle AI Database at Azure Microsoft team. So far, just a quick refresher on what you have seen. With the help of Partha, we were able to look at how if you have an autonomous database, with the help of Oracle MCP server and the tools that it brings in, you are able to draw insights directly on your data with a few prompts, right? So along with autonomous database, Oracle AI Database at Azure provides a whole spectrum of offerings ranging from base DB, Exadata, and Exascale to offer enterprise customers the choice of choosing the best solution that helps them to run their Oracle workloads on Azure. So if you look at the screen, so the navigation on the Azure portal takes you to the Oracle AI Database at Azure page, and you have all the different offerings that are available as of today for you to try out. And using OCI Golden Gate, as Partha mentioned, you can replicate relevant Oracle data into Fabric in real time. And Fabric itself has another option of mirroring your Oracle data natively into Fabric in near real time. So you can choose between either OCI Golden Gate or Fabric mirroring, whichever option chooses your requirements best to mimic or bring your Oracle data into Fabric. So let's pause on this screen for a bit. So we're looking at the data estate of 𝗬𝗲. It's a fictitious company which has a mirror database which contains Oracle data mirrored into Fabric. And they also have a SQL database in which they're maintaining some of their structural data estate. So using shortcuts from Fabric, they have unified all of this data into a lakehouse. So let's look at the structure of the data we have in the lakehouse before we jump into the developer perspective of what we can do. So in the lakehouse, I have 4 master tables. This is my bronze layer of data, which is all raw at this point. Some of this is brought from Oracle, some of it from SQL database. So this contains viewership data of various programs that are run by this channel, and across regions, how is the viewership and general sentiment. So now let's look at, as a developer, the first thing you want to do is use the Microsoft Fabric MCP server extension, which comes through VS Code. And once you install it, you have a list of tools that are made available to you as a developer. So instead of writing all of this explicitly, you can right away use these tools once you install this VS Code extension. As you see on the screen, I have my Fabric MCP server extension installed along with Oracle's MCP server extension, which I've used previously. So the first thing I want to understand is what are all the workspaces I have access to as a developer. So with just a simple prompt, I would ask it to list all the workspaces from Fabric that I can access using my credentials connected to VS Code. So as you see, with the help of GitHub Copilot, it kind of understood there is a Fabric MCP server. It identified the Fabric MCP server's tools that are relevant to the call or the prompt. And then it invoked the relevant tool to get me the details of various workspaces I have access to. So as you're noticing, I have a bunch of workspaces I have access to. And I'm more interested in the 𝗬𝗲 workspace, which we just saw a minute ago. So let the prompt complete. And once that is done, the next step I want to do is also to understand a bit of relationships that exist between the data in the lakehouse. And a follow-up prompt I have given is to help me understand about the data estate in the workspace called 𝗬𝗲. So again, with the help of Fabric MCP server, the required tools are identified and they are invoked to bring me these details of the data. So ideally, it should be listing all the 4 tables that we just saw in the lakehouse in the Fabric and the relationships that exist between them. So you can use a model of your choice. For now, I'm using an Opus model with GitHub Copilot. So as you see, it started invoking various tools from Fabric MCP server. Once it is completed, it renders a response back to me using the large language model of my choice. All right, that's good. It gave me all the 4 tables. And looks like it's also building me a data relationship, entity relationship model, which is cool to look at. Right? So I'm not spending a lot of time creating all of this myself or relying on someone else to build this for me. So I can also now understand easily as a developer what are the relationships that exist between various tables, what are the primary keys, what are the foreign keys, and so on and so forth. So let me wear the hat of a data engineer at this point and try to bring my bronze layer data into gold layer. So I'm trying to build a data pipeline using Fabric MCP server and Fabric APIs. So this is your day-to-day job as a data engineer, to build these ETL pipelines and maintain these ETL pipelines. Right? So at this point, I'm not even writing any piece of code myself. All it has done at this point is created 5 to-dos, as you see on the screen. It started first by understanding my Fabric configuration. And the second step it has done is created a notebook to bring my bronze layer of data into gold layer. For the purpose of demo, I'm directly bringing my data from bronze to gold. Ideally, you can also make it sequential, bringing the data first from bronze layer to silver and then to gold. And the second notebook it has also created is validating that this gold data that I have created is written back into the lakehouse that we already had. And the last step it has also done is deploying all of this code that is first locally created in the VS Code into Fabric as a notebook. And let's see how all of this looks together in the Fabric workspace once completed. So from VS Code, we see that all of this is successfully done as an indication for us to now switch to the Fabric portal and look at the workspace and the artifacts. So nice. It has also given me a good pipeline view of what has been done from bronze to gold layer. And as you see, let's pause here for a second. If you look at the screen, you could see 2 artifacts on the top, 2 notebooks that are created, one for gold viewership and the other one for validation. So the first notebook, let's go and make sure the PySpark code that we initially created locally is all migrated correctly as in the form of a notebook on Fabric. So at any point, as a developer, you're free to update any of this. All we are getting is a head start to not create all of this from scratch, but use Fabric MCP server and Fabric APIs together to kind of build the scaffolding for us to save a lot of hours as a developer. The last step we want to validate is also the pipelines in general, right? So we have created 2 notebooks. We have tried to stitch them together into a data pipeline. Looks like it has successfully migrated that into Fabric data pipeline. And let's make sure the run was also successful. As you see on the screen, it has succeeded in the previous run to run this pipeline, bringing my bronze data into gold layer. So if I look at the runs in more detail, it also shows how much of time each of the notebook has taken to complete. And these are all great insights for a developer to build all of this day to day. And the last check we will also make is whether if the data created in the gold layer is written back into the lakehouse we initially had. As you see, we now have 5 tables. When we first started, we had 4 raw tables. Now the 5th table has been added, which is my gold layer of the raw data that I had on the viewership. This is all great. Now let me switch and wear the hat of an ML engineer who usually gets this gold data and tries to build any model. So I'm trying to build a viewership prediction model for Java Media. So with just a single prompt, let's pause here for a second. So what I'm trying to do is create an ML experiment using Prophet model to kind of build a forecast on the viewership for various channel programs that I have. So it takes a while for completion. So once it is complete, it creates a few artifacts. Let's look at how they look. Yeah, you see it has successfully completed, and it has made sure it has accessed the data from our gold layer, built a notebook to create and run the ML experiment. And the expectation here is this ML experiment should now be migrated into Fabric Workspace with the help of Fabric MCP server tools and Fabric REST APIs successfully. So all looks good on my VS Code with the help of GitHub Copilot. Let's go and validate it. So first thing on the workspace you notice is it has created this ML experiment, and it has followed the instructions to run this differently by channel. So you see 4 different runs and various ML metrics that you would be interested in to look at which metrics are more significant and which model should I switch to. Profit seems to be good, so I'm good with the results. Now I'll also validate if the results are written back into my lakehouse in the form of a forecast delta table. So you see now a new table is added to our lakehouse as a forecast viewership. This is a new delta table that came out of our ML experiment. As an ML engineer, you're spending a lot of days and weeks to build all of these experiments, and with the help of Fabric MCP server, as you've seen now with the tools that it brings in, and with the help of Fabric REST APIs, you're able to do all of this with just a few prompts in a few hours. So this is the power that we're bringing very closer to the developers. And the last step we also want to make sure is, how can we add value to the business users, right? So I want to make sure all of this is great, but for business users to see the real value from the data, I'm trying to create a semantic model and a data agent which helps business users converse with this data for insights in the form of a self-serve on data model. So it took the prompt from the VS Code as I expected, and it also created the run and completion of a semantic model and a data agent using a Fabric MCP server tools and Fabric REST APIs. So now let's switch to Fabric portal one last time. So you see the semantic model successfully created. Let me go ahead and auto-recreate a Power BI dashboard out of it and see if this all makes sense. It takes a few minutes to load this up based on the data you have. So once complete, you see how we are able to create a Power BI dashboard right away with Fabric MCP server and REST APIs and a few prompts right from your GitHub Copilot. So you're free to make any tweaks to the Power BI dashboard or share this as it is for your business users to see value of what you have built so far. Right? You've created goal data, you've created ML experiments, and you've created a forecast model for your viewership. And this is all readable to your business users at this point. And you're not spending a lot of time creating all of this from scratch as a developer. And let's look at the data agent we have built through the GitHub Copilot. So now you see the data agent has connections to the 2 tables that we just created for the forecast, and it also is responding for any queries that we have from a business user standpoint. So someone like a business user would ask for details on the forecast and the data insights. It is able to leverage the lakehouse data to build all of these responses and also show a nice chat at the end for business users to draw more meaning out of this. And you can also publish this directly as an agent in your Microsoft Store, or you can also convert this into your Fabric MCP server that you can integrate with other applications. And obviously, you can also enable role-based access control on this data agent to make sure only the right users have access to all of this. So just to close out on things, what you have seen at the beginning of the demo is we had all of our data in Oracle Estate. With the help of Fabric MCP server and Oracle MCP server, we were able to draw all of these insights. And you can do a lot more. What we have shown you today is just a bit of it. But if you're bringing all of this into Fabric IQ, Foundry IQ, and Work IQ layers, and tying this back to Satya's keynote yesterday as well, right? A unified IQ layer makes your Oracle transactional data more actionable. So your Oracle data now is helping you to make those decisions based on the emails that you have or the Teams chats that you have, or the calendars that you have, and the workflows that you have in your business and work context. So together, Oracle and Microsoft are powerful together if you're bringing the transactional data with IQ layer added on top of it. So we are working in this space to make this more and more better for developers to build agents and agentic solutions more seamlessly. So I will hand it over back to Partha to talk about more resources you have available online to check out some demos and also some blog posts we have published today. Over to you, Partha.
Thank you, Raji. And as you saw with these 2 demos, you have a demonstration of how we can bring both these 2 technologies and then bring both these 2 apparently disparate systems together in a seamless and accelerated way where developers can just focus on app development and then business outcomes rather than worrying about infrastructure and then worrying about the configuration setup. So it's not just these 2 demos. We have tons of demos available on our booth. So go and then check it out at the booth. So which is like just right across this place, and you can go and then get other demos. And then we also have a much more detailed on-demand session that's already available in the Microsoft Build catalog. So go and then check out that session so you can get more knowledge about the MCP servers as well as the Microsoft AI stack. And we also have some online resources, so you can go and then check out these online resources. But last but not the least, people can come and then ask us some questions. I have some goodies to give. Like I have like 4 T-shirts, 2 XL and then 2 large T-shirts. So for people who come first and then ask these questions, we are happy to give away this, and hope to go and have more conversations with you. And again, thanks for stopping by, and hope to hear more from you. Thank you, guys.